Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel reprimands some foreign ambassadors in Jerusalem. Pakistan threatens Israel in response to a fake news story, and a rare historical discovery leads archaeologists on a mysterious manhunt. I'm Natasha Kirchuk here with the latest news in Israel. The Netanyahu government is still very upset at the Obama administration and the United Nations member states for the passing of the Security Council resolution demanding an end to Israel's presence in Judea, Samaria, and even parts of its capital, Jerusalem. The White House is denying allegations that it conspired with the Palestinians to push for the resolution's adoption. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is furious the U.S. broke its long-standing approach of diplomatically shielding the Jewish state and abstained instead of vetoing the measure, which allowed it to pass.
Over decades, American administrations and Israeli governments have disagreed about settlements, but we agreed that the Security Council was not the place to resolve this issue. We knew that going there would make negotiations harder and drive peace further away. And as I told John Kerry on Thursday, friends don't take friends to the Security Council. I'm encouraged by the statements of our friends in the United States, Republicans and Democrats alike. They understand how reckless and destructive this UN resolution was. They understand that the Western Wall isn't occupied territory. I look forward to working with those friends and with the new administration when it takes office next month.
10 of the 14 countries that voted in favor of the resolution have embassies in Israel. In a highly unusual move, the ambassadors of Britain, China, Russia, France, Egypt, Japan, Uruguay, Spain, Ukraine, and New Zealand were all summoned to the foreign ministry in Jerusalem to be reprimanded on Christmas Day.
I've been received by the chief of the protocol just to set up some issues.
Much of the international community views the Israeli building of homes for Jews in the West Bank as illegal and an obstacle to peace, because the Palestinians claim the area for their future state. While many Israelis believe they have a right to live in their biblical and historical homeland, differing opinions are being voiced over the impact of the Security Council vote.
The significance of the UN resolution in the short term is that extremists on both sides will be strengthened. The extremists on the Jewish side will say we have to build, that the world will be against Israel no matter what we do. The extremists among the Arabs will say terror pays, that the world makes decisions that really encourage terror, like they did yesterday. But the long-term significance is that we see decisions like this that don't accomplish anything will perhaps lead the world to realize that this isn't the way to go.
It looks like the saga continues. The Palestinians helped to draft the UN resolution against Israeli settlement building, and their outspoken support of its approval is already prompting shifts in Israeli policy. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says the UN vote is a clear statement from the world that Israel's building on land over the 1967 borders, including Jerusalem, is an illegitimate enterprise. In response, Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman is ordering that all civil and diplomatic contact with the PA be severed. This directive could affect Jerusalem's recent cabinet decision to increase the number of Palestinians permitted to cross into the Jewish state for work. It might also impact Israel's proposal to create an industrial zone in the southern West Bank for the Palestinians, or even the transfer of 5 armored jeeps from Jordan to PA security forces. Despite these potential changes, though, security coordination between the two sides will continue as before. The Israeli army has recently been able to gradually reduce its presence in many West Bank cities, since the Palestinian police are doing more and stopping up to 40% of attempted terrorist attacks. During his cabinet meeting yesterday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blamed the Obama administration for purposefully orchestrating and passing last Friday's anti-Israel UN resolution. Joining me today via telephone is Malcolm Hoenlein, the Executive Vice Chairman of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, to discuss how the Jewish communities are reacting to what many around the world see as a major betrayal by the U.S. Thanks for joining us, Malcolm.
It's great to be with you.
Now, many see Obama's actions as his true face being seen in the last weeks of his presidency. How does the Jewish community at large feel about this allegation?
Well, there's deep concern about what happened over the last few days, and there are many who are saying, well, we told you so, that this was what he was about. We know that he began his tenure with a speech in Cairo, which was certainly misguided and misinformed. And he ends with the vote at the UN. Perhaps that's the end. We don't know. That maybe get more shoes to fall. So this is the way that people are characterizing it. And we will have to see how history judges his presidency, whether in regard to Israel and overall his actions in the Middle East and around the world, and what impact they had on Israel's long-term security.
Now, Obama is on his way out, and his legacy is in many eyes tarnished with anti-Israel sentiment. The American Jewish communities were typically supportive of Obama and his democratic policies in the past, but is that support shifting?
I definitely see a change in the way many people, not all, but I would say the majority of the organized Jewish community, certainly expressing deep concern, feeling betrayed by the action in terms of the commitment to the U.S.-Israel relationship and commitments that the president himself made in various public statements, including at the UN, to allow this resolution with all its implications. It's not just a passing resolution like those of the General Assembly or Human Rights Council or others. When it comes to the Security Council, this has real implications. And our concern is that not only will there be other efforts maybe in the French meeting or other occasions, but that the Palestinians and others will exploit this. The BDS movement will exploit it to justify their anti-Israel rhetoric and hatred, and to implement sanctions against those who live in the Shtachim or do business in the territories. I think these are all concerns which are growing in the community as a whole.
Thanks so much for joining us, Malcolm. Speaking of the American Jewish population, according to political pundit Mitchell Barak, much of American Jewry is deeply concerned by President-elect Donald Trump's appointment of David Friedman as U.S. ambassador to Israel. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz sat down with Barak, who says that Friedman must walk back his comments against J Street, which have even been condemned by Trump supporters.
There's a big problem when you are representing the United States of America and you call members, even if they're of your own religion, members of the United States, citizens of the United States, as being liken them to helpers of Nazis, saying they're not Jewish. This is unacceptable to a lot of people, and unless he walks back these statements before he actually takes office here or while he takes office here, this will negatively affect his ability to work here with the Israeli government, because you have many political parties that share those same views. So that's going to be a problem for him. And I think he will realize that he has to walk that back because that's unacceptable. I'm a little bit surprised that the Jewish community in America, especially the right-wing Jewish community, including people like the ZOA, people like Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, who put out an article in support of him and said that it wasn't a good choice of words. Imagine for a moment that Steve Bannon said those same things. Everyone is against. Steve Bannon is going to be a strategic advisor. He's been called a member of the alt-right, a Nazi sympathizer, and an anti-Semite. And what they come with that he's an anti-Semite is that during a divorce with his wife, through hearsay, he said he didn't want his daughters to learn in a school with spoiled Jewish girls in Los Angeles. Now, imagine Steve Bannon came out and said that Jews who are from J Street or Jews who, are supporting a two-state settlement are capos, are helpers of Nazis. Every Jewish group would try and ban him from the White House and say this is unacceptable. Where is that outcry right now for a Jew that does that? And to call people within the Jewish community horrible things like that and use Holocaust imagery. I mean, he cheapens the Holocaust, and even the president of J Street writes his parents were Holocaust survivors, meaning it's not diplomatic, it's not acceptable. If he's not going to walk it back, he's going to have a problem with Israelis, and he's going to have a problem representing the American citizens that he's supposed to represent here in Israel, especially the Jewish community, because there's a relationship between the American Jewish community and the Israeli ambassador.
David Friedman has openly said that he wants to move the embassy, of course, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He wants to make his home here in Jerusalem. And he's even being encouraged, even before taking office, by the Israeli ambassador to Israel, Ron Dermer. Is that proper?
Well, I think Ambassador Dermer likes to fan the flames of democracy during the Festival of Lights. So certainly why the Israeli ambassador to Washington would be talking about an internal American issue about where they would place the embassy, because this is an American debate between the Congress that put legislation into law that the embassy has to go to Jerusalem, and the executive branch, the president, that every year extends the ban on doing that. So I think there's a problem on the part of the Netanyahu administration, in particular being represented by Ambassador Dermer in Washington, in that they feel really kindred spirits, if not brothers in arms, with the Republican Party. We've seen that both during the Iran deal, going to Congress, challenging the president, and now we see it with a total grand slam Republican administration of the president, of the Congress, and the Senate. And I think they have to realize that they're representing the state of Israel, the people of Israel, to all the American people, to all American politicians, to both political parties. And to get involved in that debate of where the embassy is going to be in a kind of encouraging or baiting kind of way, or even when Ambassador Dermer comes out and says, we look forward to working with the new administration, and Steve Bannon and whoever else will be kind of giving the Israeli Jewish right of center kosher stamp of approval, that's not the best way to do diplomacy, because no matter how many terms President Trump will be in office or how many years he'll be in office, at some point there'll be Democrats. And there's a lot of wounds. And even there were tweets and comments of people that were at that very candlelighting ceremony in Washington who expressed shock, dismay, and disappointment that he would use a candlelighting to use that political comment. Now, if you're a Democratic congressman or senator at the Israeli embassy, why would we want to make people feel like that? These are our supporters.
Mitchell Barak, thanks so much for being with us at ILTV.
Thank you.
Moving on to a totally different story. It's certainly a sign of our times that not only did a fake news story almost cause a major nuclear confrontation between Israel and Pakistan over the past couple of days, but that defense officials managed to defuse the situation through a series of tweets. It all happened when a site calling itself AWD News published a false story, supposedly citing Israel's defense minister threatening to launch an atomic strike against Pakistan if it sends troops to Syria. Islamabad's own defense chief then fired off a tweet repeating the claim before ominously reminding Israel that the Islamic Republic is also a nuclear state. His post was then retweeted over 3 million times. Israel's real defense ministry tweeted back right away, insisting the report was completely untrue and that no such statement has ever been made. And to make it even more ridiculous, the Israeli defense minister who was supposedly quoted was Moshe Ya'alon, who left office last May and is no longer a part of the government. A quick check of AWD that circulated the incendiary claim to begin with shows it's a fake news site. Some commentators on Twitter have been slamming Pakistani Minister Khawaja Mohammed Asif for not behaving more responsibly and for not being able to tell the difference between real and inauthentic news. He's taken heat before over boasting about his country's nuclear arsenal, like last September when he threatened to use nukes against Pakistan's arch-enemy, India. So while there's been no immediate reaction from Islamabad since Jerusalem deactivated the almost atomic altercation, in this case, no news is good news. All right, moving on. This morning, Israeli firefighters were finally able to gain control of a large blaze that broke out yesterday at the nation's largest oil refinery in Haifa. Aaron, tell us about this situation. Very scary.
Well, I have some more details in the report after this, but it easily could have been way worse. So we're very lucky that, the tireless work of the firefighters over nearly 24 hours, they've brought the fire under control.
40 emergency crews battled throughout the night to douse a burning fuel tank, which was fortunately relatively empty at the time. The teams also worked to keep the fire from spreading to other flammable infrastructure at the extensive industrial complex. Thick black smoke and flames were seen shooting into the sky above the northern coastal city. Roads were closed and local residents were initially ordered to remain inside to avoid breathing the potentially toxic fumes. Investigative teams are now asking all workers in the area about the incident, which so far appears to be caused by either human error or a possible technical failure. Luckily, there have been no reports of any injuries at the scene.
Well, I think all of Israel is lucky that this blaze is now under control. Haifa certainly hasn't had it easy this winter. Now, turning to a very interesting interview, undergoing surgery can be frightening, and the last thing you want when you're under the knife is for the surgeon to be working blindly. Well, one Israeli company has created an amazing piece of technology that will make this issue a thing of the past. CEO of FlowMed, Amir Gilad, joins me in the studio with more. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So, to begin, tell us about this product that you guys have created.
Well, this product is simple automation for a task that should have been done by a robot and not by a human. It's a simple task of swapping bags of solution that actually wash the lens of the endoscope.
So for those who don't know, endoscope is the lens that goes into the body during surgery.
Yeah.
And today, can you tell us about how we deal with cleaning the endoscope today?
Endoscopic procedure actually enters the endoscope into the body and through a small opening. So actually the vision is on the screen and the surgeon is looking at the screen while he's cutting anything inside, there's bleeding and it might cover the lens. So they're using now solution bags, saline solution for example, which are washing the lens all the time.
So it's consistently washing the lens so that the doctors can see what they're doing during the surgery.
And the saline bags are 3-liter bags that are hang on a pole, and the nurse has to open up the next bag when one is finished.
So constantly replace them.
Constantly replace them.
Manually, right?
Manually. Nurse opening and hanging them. And if the nurse is not doing it in a timely manner and the flow is stopped and there's bleeding, the view is blocked and the surgeon sees nothing, actually nothing.
Right, and the surgery takes longer, which is more dangerous for the patient.
And at this point, he actually calls the nurse and say, "Hey, where are you?" And usually she answers him, and I saw it happening. And this is silly that the patient is on
the doctors and nurses have to be screaming at each other to replace the saline bag so the endoscope is clean.
This is exactly what's happening. And every doctor that I spoke with in urological procedures, in gynecological procedure, in arthroscopic procedure, every doctor knows the problem. Every doctor experiences it.
So you guys have created a product that essentially eliminates this issue, right? Tell us about it.
Yes, we very simply, we weigh the bags. We know that when bag is going to be finished, and then we move automatically to the next bag. We cut the neck of the bag and insert a spike into that bag and continue the flow without any stopping.
This seems like such a basic idea, yet it hasn't existed. Now, obviously, what inspired you to create this aqueduct was essentially complaints coming from doctors around the world, right?
Actually, the founder is a doctor, one of the founders, and another one was a salesperson that said, well, we shouldn't have this problem at the hospital. It's OR. It's so simple to solve, and everybody suffers from it. So he had the idea, and we raised the money, and we built a prototype and tested it in Bnei Zion Hospital in Haifa, and it works very nice, automation. We learned many other things about how to do it in a real-life environment, and it worked nice.
And it saves a lot of money for hospitals as well, right?
It does save because time is money. Imagine that you save by this machine, you have several bags actually on a carousel which are hanging there, and the nurse needs just to put the bags on. She doesn't need to open it. And it will be opened automatically when needed only. Now, on the operation, when you finish operation, you throw away the bag and the tubing currently. On our system, you won't need. You have a small part which maintains the sterility of the bags, and then you can use the bags for the next operation.
So it's environmentally friendly as
Yeah,
well.
so you don't throw away bags, a solution, it saves money. You save the time of setting up the next procedure because you have to remove the bag and put the next bag. So you're saving time. Saving, let's say, even half an hour, which is a good time for a knee operation, makes like $1,000 for the hospital.
Yeah, it's huge.
If you have 100 days of operations a year, which is less than usual, it's $100,000 that you save just by small
Right,
system.
and I mean, it's clearly a liability to have people under the knife for longer than necessary, and if this is one of the issues that would cause that,
Exactly.
then it needs to be changed. Now,
Exactly.
where can this product be found? Is it currently on the market?
No, we currently had the prototype tested in Nation Hospital, and we're looking for funds for the next systems to be built. Actually, we have gone with a China-Israel program, and we have a Chinese partner, and we adapt the system to China and getting money from the Israel Innovation Authority and a little money from our own investors. We will need in the future more funds, but the market is huge. There are 500,000 ORs in the world. Each OR needs such a system. And even if we sell it at $10,000, it is a market of billions.
That's unbelievable. It looks like you guys have created an incredible product that can save lives and also, could be a great investment for some of our viewers who might be interested. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
A fragment of a 2,100-year-old engraved bowl was just found in Jerusalem with a rare Hebrew inscription of the name Hyrcanus. And now researchers want to know who he was. What we do know is that the bowl itself is one of the oldest vessels of its type ever found in Jerusalem. It was made sometime during the Hasmonean era out of chalk, which is a kind of limestone often used at the time, because the Jewish people believed it could ensure ritual purity. It's therefore not surprising the artifact was found on the ruins of an ancient mikveh at the city of David, in the Jerusalem Walls National Park just outside of the Old City. Mikvehs are still in use today. They're traditional bathing complexes used to cleanse oneself of impurities, especially before visiting the biblical temples, which were located nearby. The riddle of who owned the bowl 2,100 years ago may never be solved, though, because the name is thought to have been a common one at the time. On the other hand, we know there were 2 Jewish kings with the same name during this period, meaning it could have once been a treasured possession of the royal Hasmonean dynasty. Now, I'm curious. I want to know who Hyrcanus was. We will try to keep you updated on what the archaeologists discover. But for now, here's another one for the history books. We're about to show you a video that's going viral of kafia-clad Muslim sheiks dancing to Hasidic music in Bahrain with ultra-Orthodox Jews. Aaron, what's going on?
What we're seeing here, at least in my opinion, is a really amazing shift in public Muslim attitudes across the Arab world. And I'm hoping it's not just a publicity stunt, it's something really nice.
No, the desert hasn't frozen over. The footage comes from a candle lighting ceremony just hosted by the monarch of Bahrain. King Hamad bin Isa al Khalifa's honored guests included several Jews, business people, and other citizens. Many people are surprised to find out that Bahrain is the only Arab Gulf state that still has a synagogue. The tiny, oil-rich kingdom also had a Jewish female member of parliament between 2008 and 2010. Only about 50 Jews still live among the 1.4 million Muslim majority population in the country today. In 1948, there were about 1,500 Jews living in Bahrain who left when Israel was founded, with the remainder leaving after the 1967 Six-Day War. This isn't actually the first time that the king held a Hanukkah event. Last year, he hosted another traditional ceremony when he said, quote, "The call to war against terror needs to come from the leaders of all the religions as one," end quote. He added that in Bahrain, Jews are welcome to observe all the customs and commandments of their faith in peace and without fear. Now that's a happy Hanukkah.
Tonight, Jews around the world are marking the second night of the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah, and as a special surprise, some young students from the Kahila Democratic School in Tel Aviv are lighting the menorah for ILTV.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה ניסים לאבותינו ולאמותינו בימים ההם בזמן My name is Leah and I study at the Democratic School of Tel Aviv, Kehila. I light this candle for peace all around the world.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. We sit by them every day, we put our computers on them, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. You guessed it, today's word is shulchan, meaning table. Apart from being a surface to eat on, the word shulchan lends itself to many expressions in Hebrew as well. You could sit at the shulchan with respect to negotiations. You can save things to the shulchan avodah, or the desktop of your computer. You can get paid mitachat lashulchan, or under the table. And if you're especially upset with something, you can flip the shulchan over, or lechafoch et shulchan, so to speak, which means to make a scene and get attention. However you decide to use shulchan is fine with us. Just remember that in our opinion, the best use is just to bring people together around the shulchan. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast.
ILTV's weather forecast is sponsored by Adopt a Savta, taking care of Israel's lonely Holocaust survivors.
Tonight you should expect occasional showers and thunderstorms with a low of 50 or 10 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow should have a few more bouts of rain as the temperatures drop to a high of 57 or 14 degrees Celsius. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.82 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. Thanks for watching and see you tonight.